and welcome to the Morning Serve, brought to you by TikTok. I'm Emma Lawrence, joined by Leighton Hewitt and Todd Woodbridge. Before we get stuck into a huge men's final coming up tonight, it's been an incredible tournament, so let's get a little bit reflective. Who would you say has been a breakout star that we can keep an eye on for the rest of the season? I'll start with you, Leighton.
All right, for me, Sebastian Korda. He came here a few years back and won the juniors here. His dad won the senior title here on the men's side back quite a few years ago, and I think he really enjoys coming and playing at Melbourne Park. It's someone really special for him to play, and I think we're going to see him progress really deep in the rest of the majors this year, and I think he'll come back here as pretty high seed next year.
Well, I'm going with Ben Shelton. What a revelation he was. First time out of America, and he ends up, deep into the second week of a slam. Quite extraordinary. But what I loved about him is that he's quite fearless. He's a lefty, and look, I think if he can keep developing, and there's a few things he'll want to work on, but his serve is fantastic. He volleys very, very well, and he's not scared to come forward. So that all sort of bears well for the grass at Wimbledon. And, watch out then when he gets to US Open, he gets all of that crowd and the support behind him. So he's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be an incredible year. And of course, we have you covered for all of the Grand Slams right here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. We cannot wait. But let's get stuck into the big final tonight. First off, Leighton, it's been a bit of a chaotic 72 hours for Novak Djokovic with the drama around his dad. Is that at all a distraction for someone so experienced?
Yeah, I don't think so for Novak. He's able to go out there and block a lot of things out when he gets on the court. I saw it firsthand when he played Alex de Minaur the other night. And, he had the whole Australian crowd going for Alex out there, but he was laser focused from the first ball to the last. And he's going to need that as well, playing Stefanos. It's going to be a tough match. It's not all going to be on his terms, but Novak's one of the best at blocking things out there.
And as you mentioned, the crowd, would you think they will be pro Tsitsipas, Todd? Because he has just been, he said it's his home Grand Slam. He's been giving us Aussie slaying after every game. It's almost like he's our adopted son in a sense, would you say?
Well, the crowd's going to be really fascinating because they will play a major part in it. The thing is that, yes, I think predominantly the people that are sitting on the fence would go for him. He's going to bring a big Greek contingent, but the Serbians are loud, and there's a lot of them here. If they can't get a ticket into the stadium, they're going to be all out around the big screens here, and they'll be driving it. The thing is, if you're Stefanos, I'm not so sure you want the crowd to be going, for you really vocally, because he takes that energy and he then uses that to hone in and focus, and he turns it somehow into a positive. You've got to watch out for a Novak that gets a little bit angry like that with the crowd, because you can make him play better. So we'll see how all of that plays out, but it's going to be quite interesting.
Well, that is a perfect segue into our TikTok moment of the day, and it was an epic rally from the semi-final with Stefanos Tsitsipas, which the crowd absolutely loved. All right, well, let's get stuck into Stefanos Tsitsipas. Leighton, Mark Philippous, as you know him very well, a mate of yours. What impact do you think he has had, especially given Stefanos Tsitsipas? Sometimes, what do you think it's just an extra voice, an outside voice? What has been the difference?
Well, it's definitely a calmness out there. Flip's very calm in the player's box. It gives Stefanos something to look up to, and he's got the belief in him as well that he belongs there late in these tournaments. The biggest difference is Flip's in his box now playing in a Grand Slam final. This hasn't been the case when he was in the Roland Garros final a couple of years ago. So I think that's a big chance now. Flip's going to sit down, go through everything before the match. It's about controlling his emotions out there, especially early when you're playing such a great in Novak Djokovic.
Todd, how important do you think that start is? Do you think if Stefanos loses that first set, do you think then Novak just gets on a roll and gets it done?
Yeah, well, the numbers say that that's, the likelihood if he wins a first set. But I think Stefanos has been coming out of the blocks really well, and he plays a really high intensity. The issue for me is how long can he play that for, because you are going to come off your level at some point in a best-of-5 set match, and we know he led 2 sets to love at Roland Garros. He knows he can beat him. I actually think he's a better player now than he was a couple of years ago, but the thing is to stay with Novak, keep pressuring him, get him a little bit agitated because the scoreline is tight. Remember, he hasn't really been pushed that much throughout the tournament. So the other thing is, when you say push, you got to push him hard into the backhand corner, and he has to keep testing what that hamstring and left leg is like, because so far throughout we've been watching Novak protect that beautifully. He's done a great job.
But I think Tsitsipas as well, going out there, he's been able to hit his forehand so big. He's generated so much pace on that side. We've seen the numbers go up from previous years, and he's going to have to do that against Novak. Whether he's brave enough to take it on consistently over 5 sets, that's going to be a big question.
If Novak does get the job done, as you mentioned, he's barely got out of second gear. Is it too big of a statement to say it would be the best performance we've seen from a player at a Grand Slam? Leighton?
Well, you see awesome performances.
It's a big statement.
Yeah, we saw one in Rafa last year coming back with the injuries that he's had as well. So it would be quite remarkable, though. He came into this tournament under an injury cloud. He was obviously hampered, especially through the first week of this tournament, but he was able to protect his leg as much as possible. So when he's needed to, he puts that extra little bit of effort in, hoping that something doesn't go completely wrong with the hamstring, but he's been able to manage it unbelievably well.
Does he then, if he wins, Todd, go into Roland Garros as the favourite? And if he is allowed to the US Open, can you see him getting the calendar slam?
Well, he becomes the #1 player in the world. Either of them do, whoever wins that match. So that's another big weight on the shoulders, more for me for Tsitsipas. I don't think it's an absolute focus for Novak. But does he go into the rest of the year as the favourite? Yes, because for me, when he won Wimbledon, he played so well. He played well at the back end of the year when he was allowed to get out and play again, because he wasn't allowed to go to the United States, Canada, etc. And then when he's come here, he's just looked this step above everybody. And look, ultimately, if he can continue with the health, fitness and the motivation, he's probably going to crack that record that currently Rafa owns in terms of Grand Slam titles.
And then I guess the debate is settled for good. Novak, the greatest of all time?
Who knows? It's really hard for me. I grew up with Roger.
Yeah, and we were at a function yesterday that had Rod Laver and Ken Rosewell.
All the Aussie greats.
Are they no good either?
Yeah.
It's very tough to compare them all. Roger, he did it in an era by himself.
Yeah.
And he really leapfrogged the Sampras, Agassiz, all those guys. And then I think he's dragged Rafa and Novak along and made them better players as well. I'm just so lucky, I think, for the sport of tennis that we have 3 unbelievable ambassadors for the game, and they're still playing, into their mid to late 30s.
All right, well, we've got a final. Before we look too far ahead, of course, it is the big one tonight. So let's break it down. If Stefanos Tsitsipas is to get it done, I know it's going to be a massive job. What are the keys to victory for Stefanos?
He's got to serve well. We've seen what Novak has done to players that don't have big serves. He gets on top of them and he strangles them out there with his court play across the baseline. There's nowhere to go. He's such a good returner. So I think Steph has the opportunity to win cheap points on his serve, and he's going to have to try and stay with Novak early. That's one thing in the last 3 matches, Novak hasn't been tested. He's been very comfortable out there. So playing under that pressure, getting close to finishing sets at tie-break stages, whether that plays into Steph's hands, he's going to have to use all his shots as well. He uses the short slice backhand, gets around, uses his forehand, look to come into the net. He's going to have to try and be unpredictable.
I'll add one thing. His backhand has to hold up. His backhand throughout has been really, really good, but there's been a couple of moments within matches when the level has dropped, where the backhand went off. And if that goes off, watch out for Novak to jump all over him.
And for Novak to get the job done, is it just as simple as what he always does?
Well, for me, Novak is just to stay cool, calm and collected. He doesn't always do that. He's been, his ball striking has been as clean as I think I've ever seen it. He's used his backhand up the line incredibly well, which will be important because Tsitsipas is always looking to get around and use that forehand. If you can get him over that side, then you can actually expose the one-handed backhand, and I'm sure that will be a tactic.
All right, so I'm assuming you're tipping a Novak victory in how many sets?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight one, but I'm going 4 sets, Novak.
I'm going 4 sets Novak as well. I know that there's a big population out there that would like to see a change, but Novak owns this tournament.
All right, well, enjoy the final. You can catch all of the action live, free and exclusive on Nine's Wide World of Sports. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Morning Serve, thanks to TikTok.